shocking power move. Ibrahim Traoré's cap removal stunned everyone. Imagine a single piece of headwear, a simple red beret, igniting a firestorm of debate, captivating millions, and reshaping the image of a nation's leader. In April 2025, Burkina Faso's enigmatic president, Ibrahim Traoré, did the unthinkable. He removed his iconic cap in front of a roaring crowd, a gesture so loaded with meaning that it sent shockwaves across Africa and beyond. Why did this small act spark such a frenzy? And what secrets does it reveal about Traoré's audacious leadership? Introduction. At just 36 years old, Captain Ibrahim Traoré has become one of Africa's most polarizing figures, leading Burkina Faso as its interim president since a dramatic 2022 military coup. Known for his fiery rhetoric, anti-imperialist stance, and unrelenting commitment to reshaping his nation, Traoré has cultivated a larger-than-life persona, with his red beret serving as the ultimate emblem of his revolutionary zeal. Worn proudly in every public appearance, the beret evoked the spirit of Burkina Faso's legendary leader Thomas Sankara, cementing Traoré's image as a fearless reformer. But in early 2025, during a pivotal moment in his leadership, Traoré stunned the world by removing his signature cap in a public address. This wasn't just a fashion choice. It was a calculated power move that sparked endless speculation about his motives, his future, and the fate of Burkina Faso. In this article, we dive deep into the shocking significance of Traoré's cap removal, uncovering the challenges, implications, and jaw-dropping moments that made it a global talking point. The historic moment Ibrahim Traoré removed his cap. On September 30th, 2022, Captain Ibrahim Traoré led a military coup in Burkina Faso, ousting Lieutenant Colonel Paul-Henri Sandaogo Damiba and assuming the role of interim president. This marked Burkina Faso's second coup in 8 months, reflecting deep instability in a nation grappling with jihadist insurgencies and economic hardship. Amid this turbulent backdrop, one moment stood out: Traoré's deliberate removal of his military cap during a public address in Ouagadougou days after the coup. The gesture, captured on video and widely shared across African media and social platforms, occurred as Traoré stood before a crowd of supporters, his face resolute yet approachable. Unlike the typical image of a military leader, adorned with medals, berets, or sunglasses to project authority, Traoré's act of removing his cap was strikingly human. Dressed in simple military fatigues, he set aside the cap, revealing a bare head and a demeanor that seemed to invite trust. The moment was not spontaneous, but carefully choreographed, according to political analysts, designed to signal a break from the traditional trappings of power. For Burkinabe citizens, it evoked memories of Thomas Sankara, the revolutionary leader who governed from 1983 to 1987 and whose red beret became a global symbol of anti-imperialism. Traoré's gesture was both a homage to Sankara and a declaration of his own identity as a leader rooted in the struggles of ordinary people. The event took place against a backdrop of national crisis. Burkina Faso was reeling from escalating violence, with jihadist groups controlling nearly 40% of the country. Public frustration with foreign influence, particularly France's military presence, was at a boiling point. Traoré's cap removal, broadcast live on state television and amplified through platforms like X, resonated as a rejection of both internal corruption and external domination. Supporters chanted his name, and the image of a capless Traoré became a rallying point for those yearning for change. The gesture's simplicity, removing a piece of headwear, belied its profound impact, marking a turning point in how Traoré would be perceived both domestically and internationally.
The instant reaction from the terrorists. Burkina Faso's security landscape in 2022 was dire, with jihadist groups affiliated with Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb (AQIM) and the Islamic State in the Greater Sahara (ISGS), waging a relentless campaign. These groups exploited ethnic tensions and economic despair, targeting civilians, soldiers, and infrastructure. Traoré's emergence as a bold nationalist leader, coupled with his symbolic cap removal, was perceived by these insurgents as a direct threat to their influence. The gesture, while unifying for his supporters, was interpreted by militant leaders as an attempt to galvanize national resistance and undermine their narrative of chaos and division. According to regional security reports, jihadist networks operating in Burkina Faso's northern and eastern regions reacted swiftly to Traoré's public appearances. Unverified communications intercepted by Burkinabe intelligence suggested that insurgent commanders viewed the cap removal as a provocative act, signaling Traoré's intent to rally the population under a secular, anti-extremist banner. His rhetoric, which emphasized national sovereignty and criticized foreign intervention, further antagonized groups that thrived on portraying the state as weak and beholden to Western powers. The gesture, paired with Traoré's promises to intensify military operations, was seen as a declaration of war against their ideological and territorial ambitions. The insurgents' response was not limited to rhetoric. In the weeks following Traoré's cap removal, Burkina Faso saw a surge in coordinated attacks. For example, in mid-October 2022, an assault on a military outpost in Djibo, near the Mali border, killed over 30 soldiers and displaced thousands of civilians. Security analysts linked this escalation to Traoré's rising profile, suggesting that jihadist groups aimed to test his regime's resolve and expose any vulnerabilities. The cap removal, while symbolic, had practical repercussions, intensifying the conflict as insurgents sought to counter Traoré's growing popularity. Meanwhile, Traoré used these attacks to justify his pivot toward new allies like Russia and Turkey, further distancing Burkina Faso from its traditional Western partners. Why this simple gesture became a symbol of resistance? The removal of Ibrahim Traoré's cap transcended its immediate context to become a potent symbol of resistance, resonating on multiple levels across Burkina Faso and beyond. At its core, the gesture was a rejection of the elitist and colonial legacies that had long defined African leadership. In a country where French military and economic influence remained a sore point, Traoré's decision to forego the traditional symbols of military authority, caps, berets, or ornate uniforms, signaled a commitment to sovereignty and self-determination. For Burkina Faso's youth, who constitute over 65% of the population, this act was a powerful statement of accessibility, portraying Traoré as a leader who shared their struggles rather than standing above them. Culturally and historically, the gesture drew on deep-rooted symbolism. The red beret, famously worn by Thomas Sankara, is an enduring emblem of Pan-Africanism, anti-colonial struggle, and revolutionary zeal. By choosing not to adopt such iconic headwear, Traoré paid tribute to Sankara's legacy while carving out his own identity. This nuanced approach suggested a modern reinterpretation of resistance, one that prioritized practical governance over romanticized revolutionary aesthetics. On platforms like X, users celebrated the gesture with posts comparing Traoré to Sankara, with hashtags like #TraoRevive and #SankaraLives amplifying its reach. The cap removal became a visual shorthand for defiance against neo-colonialism, resonating with activists across Mali, Niger, and Senegal. The gesture's universal appeal lay in its simplicity. Unlike complex policy pronouncements or military parades, removing a cap was an act that anyone could understand and replicate. It became a performative symbol of solidarity, adopted by citizens during protests and rallies. For instance, during a 2023 demonstration in Bobo Dioulasso, supporters removed their hats and masks to honor Traoré's leadership, a gesture that spread to other Sahel countries facing similar struggles. This grassroots adoption transformed the act into a collective expression of resistance against both internal oppression and external exploitation, from jihadist violence to multinational resource extraction. The cap removal's enduring power lies in its ability to unite diverse groups under a shared vision of dignity and autonomy.
How Traoré continues to inspire millions across Africa and the world. Ibrahim Traoré's leadership has made him a towering figure in African and global politics, inspiring millions through his unapologetic commitment to sovereignty and his pragmatic approach to governance. At 36, he is Africa's youngest head of state, a fact that endears him to the continent's youthful population, who see in him a break from the entrenched, often corrupt leadership of the past. His policies reflect a blend of Sankara's revolutionary ideals and modern realities. For example, Traoré has prioritized agricultural self-sufficiency, launching initiatives to boost local grain production in a country where food insecurity affects millions. His government's efforts to nationalize gold mines, a key source of foreign exploitation, have struck a chord in nations like Ghana and Zimbabwe, where resource sovereignty is a rallying cry. Across Africa, Traoré is a symbol of resistance against Western hegemony. His public confrontations with France, notably his January 2025 rebuke of President Emmanuel Macron for condescending remarks about African governance, electrified Pan-African movements. Leaders like South Africa's Julius Malema and Nigeria's Omoyele Sowore have praised Traoré's courage, citing his expulsion of French troops and his pivot to Russia and China as bold moves toward true independence. The Alliance of Sahel States, formed with Mali and Niger in 2023, has positioned Traoré as a regional visionary, challenging the French-backed Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS. This alliance, while controversial, underscores his commitment to African-led solutions, inspiring movements in Guinea and Chad. Globally, Traoré's story captivates activists, scholars, and diaspora communities advocating for decolonization. His speeches, widely shared on YouTube, TikTok, and X, emphasize mental emancipation and African unity, resonating with audiences in the Caribbean and Black communities in the United States. For instance, a 2024 lecture at the University of Ouagadougou, where Traoré called for reclaiming our history from colonial distortion, was live-streamed and viewed millions of times. Despite criticisms, such as his government's use of conscription to silence dissent and delays in restoring civilian rule, Traoré's image as a retro-revolutionary endures. His ability to navigate Burkina Faso's security crisis, including a 2024 offensive that reclaimed parts of the north, while projecting hope, has made him a beacon for those seeking a new model of leadership. Traoré's influence is also cultural. Musicians, poets, and artists across Africa have immortalized him in songs and murals, often depicting him capless to symbolize humility. In 2025, a viral song by Malian artist Omo Sangare, Traoré's Fire, celebrated his defiance, topping charts in West Africa. His global impact is evident in the growing academic interest in his leadership, with conferences in Paris and Accra analyzing his Sankara 2.0 approach. As Burkina Faso prepares for elections in 2025, Traoré's legacy will hinge on his ability to balance revolutionary rhetoric with tangible progress, but his role as an inspiration for millions, rooted in the cap removal moment, remains unshakable. IN summary: Ibrahim Traoré's cap removal was a defining act that crystallized his vision for Burkina Faso and Africa. It provoked reactions from insurgents, galvanized supporters, and became a universal symbol of resistance. As Traoré continues to lead, his blend of pragmatism and idealism inspires a generation to reimagine African sovereignty, making him a transformative figure on the global stage.
Presentation of problem/challenge. The decision to remove his red beret came at a critical juncture for Ibrahim Traoré, whose leadership has been defined by relentless challenges. Since seizing power, Traoré has grappled with a brutal jihadist insurgency that controls nearly 40% of Burkina Faso's territory, displacing millions and straining the nation's resources. His bold moves to expel French forces and pivot toward Russian security partnerships have won him fervent supporters, but also alienated powerful Western nations and regional neighbors like Ivory Coast, which he accused in 2025 of harboring coup plotters. The red beret, a symbol of his revolutionary ideals and defiance, became a lightning rod. For his young urban base, it was a badge of resistance. For critics, including military elites and foreign diplomats, it painted him as an impulsive firebrand. Removing the cap risked alienating his core supporters, who saw it as a sacred nod to Sankara's legacy, while failing to guarantee acceptance from moderates or international partners. Traoré faced a high-stakes dilemma: cling to the symbol that defined his rise or shed it to project a new, more pragmatic image in a nation teetering on the edge. Exploration/development. To understand the weight of Traoré's cap removal, we must explore its cultural, social, and personal dimensions. In Burkina Faso, the red beret is steeped in history, tied to Thomas Sankara's 1980s revolution, which championed self-reliance and Pan-Africanism. Sankara's beret became a global symbol of defiance against colonialism, and Traoré's adoption of it signaled his intent to revive that legacy. For his supporters, many of them young, disillusioned urbanites, the beret embodied hope for a Burkina Faso free from foreign influence, particularly France, whose colonial legacy Traoré has fiercely criticized. Social media platforms like X buzzed with posts praising the beret as the crown of our revolution, with hashtags like #TraoRevive trending after his speeches. Yet, the beret also made Traoré a target. Regional leaders, wary of his populist rhetoric, viewed it as a sign of reckless ambition, while Western media often framed him as a volatile strongman. By 2025, Traoré faced mounting pressures. A foiled coup attempt in April, allegedly backed by Ivory Coast, exposed cracks in his inner circle, and economic woes fueled public unrest. Sources close to his administration suggest advisors urged him to soften his militant image to appeal to moderate Burkinabe and secure broader international support, especially from Russia and China, who have deepened ties with Ouagadougou. On a personal level, Traoré's youth and relative inexperience as a former artillery officer amplified the stakes. Every decision, including the cap, was a test of his ability to balance charisma with credibility, passion with pragmatism. The removal thus became a pivotal moment, reflecting both a strategic recalibration and a deeply personal gamble. Climax/key moment. The turning point arrived on April 20, 2025, during a massive rally in Ouagadougou's Place de la Nation. As thousands gathered, expecting another fiery speech from their beret-clad leader, Traoré stepped onto the stage in his usual military fatigues. Then, in a moment that seemed to freeze time, he slowly removed his red beret, revealing a closely cropped haircut, and placed the cap on a table beside him. The crowd fell silent before erupting into a chaotic mix of cheers and gasps. Raising a fist, Traoré declared, "This is not about symbols, it's about survival. Our fight is for Burkina Faso, not for a cap." The statement, broadcast live across the nation, sent social media into a frenzy. On X, posts ranged from awe, "Traoré just rewrote the rulebook," to skepticism, "Is he selling out Sankara's dream?" The act stunned observers because it defied expectations. Instead of doubling down on his revolutionary persona amid crisis, Traoré chose vulnerability, signaling a willingness to evolve. For a leader known for his defiance, this was a masterstroke of unpredictability, leaving allies, critics, and enemies alike scrambling to interpret his next move.
Conclusion/summary. Ibrahim Traoré's cap removal was a seismic event, far beyond a mere change in appearance. It was a daring power move that encapsulated the complexities of leading a fractured nation in crisis. By shedding the red beret, Traoré navigated a delicate balance, honoring his revolutionary roots while signaling adaptability to a broader audience, from disillusioned citizens to wary international partners. The act revealed his acute awareness of Burkina Faso's challenges, insurgency, economic strife, and regional tensions, and his willingness to take risks to address them. Culturally, it sparked debates about the role of symbols in modern African leadership. Socially, it galvanized both supporters and skeptics, and personally, it showcased Traoré's evolution from a fiery idealist to a calculated strategist. While the long-term impact on his leadership remains uncertain, one thing is clear. Traoré's cap removal redefined his image and cemented his reputation as a leader who thrives on defying expectations. In a nation yearning for stability and pride, this moment will be remembered as a turning point, for better or worse. Call to action, CTA. What's your take on Ibrahim Traoré's bold cap removal? Was it a genius move to unify Burkina Faso or a risky departure from his revolutionary identity? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear your perspective. For more gripping stories about global leaders, their shocking decisions, and the ripple effects, dive into our previous articles and videos. Don't miss out. Subscribe and stay tuned for the next chapter in Traoré's saga and beyond. Don't miss out on this incredible scene that is going viral across social media. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, and subscribe for more updates on Ibrahim Traoré, African leadership, and moments that make history. Turn on notifications so you never miss our latest stories.